In this demo, we look at how Sentima can help establish a secure passwordless authentication between SQL Server and services. We take advantage of frequently rotated certificates provided by Sentima Database Link. Interoperability can be a challenge in Microsoft ecosystem. Sentima provides a highly interoperable and highly extensible architecture. Please note that attestation is key to Zero Trust, and Sentima provides several plugins for attestation, and it issues short-lived certificates to enable secure authentication and secure communication. In this architecture, you can see that services running on bare metal can seamlessly and securely communicate with services that are running on Google Cloud Platform or a database that's running on Azure. So in this demo, to make this interesting, we've developed these services on GCP, and SQL Server and Azure Active Directory are residing on Azure. However, please note that these services could be running on bare metal or on VMware, and this architecture works perfectly fine. So what's happening here is when a task service wants to communicate with SQL Server, it asks the Sentima agent for a certificate, and the Sentima agent gives the service a certificate. And this certificate is passed on to Active Directory, and Active Directory validates by making a call to the Sentima OIDC provider. Now, once the validation is done, Active Directory gives a short-lived access token, which the task service can use to access the SQL Server database. And note that while this demo uses SQL Server, this could be any service that sits behind Active Directory, and it works fine. So let's go to the demo here. So in here, we have a SQL demo app with some tasks in it. So let's go ahead and do a refresh. We have 4 tasks. So let's go ahead and run a query here on the Data Studio, and we have 4 tasks. So we'll go create a task. So we'll call this a new task for demo. And I'll add this, and we'll go ahead and refresh the Data Studio, and we created this task called new task for demo. Okay, so let's make this demo a little interesting. Why don't we go ahead and look at the entries here. And these are the entries that are associated with services and how these services can interact with the database. So here we have 4 entries. Please pay attention to this particular entry. It has a service account SQL POC SA, and this is where Sentima agent associates the certificates to this particular SPIFFE ID, and this service is using these certificates to interact with the database. So what happens if we delete this entry? So I'm going to use a preformed script to delete this entry. Okay, we deleted this entry. Let's check to see if the entry exists. So we only have 3 entries, and the SQL POC SA doesn't exist. So this is going to take like 60 seconds. And yeah, please note that in this example, we have the time to live as 60 seconds. So what's happening is that we rotate certificate every 60 seconds. But in reality, in production, this could be something like an hour or 2 hours or even days based on your criticality. So what are we accomplishing by doing this? The first one is we are getting rid of the passwords. So we no longer have to deal with managing the passwords, configuring these passwords, and the upkeep associated with that. The second most important thing is that the pain point. So in typically the process is whenever a new application is created, the operator goes to DB admin goes and creates a service account and password, and this has to be shared. Now the application admin or operator has to go configure this password. So there is a lot of manual tasks that are involved. And also there is also some level of uh, uh, configuration errors that could happen, right? And one of the most recent examples is the Capital One hack, where a small configuration error led to a huge security breach. So we're completely taking that off. And we're also decreasing the pain point of all this configuration. Now, let's say something were to be breached, given that we actually frequently rotate our certificates, and we also check for the provenance of where this request is originating that's taking advantage of that certificate, we can actually limit the damage even if all these certs were to be stolen. So I think we can now go ahead and refresh the app and see what's happening. So there is this connection error and the permission denied because of missing identity certificate. Let's go look at the logs here real quick. So in the logs, we do see that there is an authentication required error, permission denied because no identity was issued. So let's fix this application. So if you are to take a guess, what we do is we go and just add that entry. So now we have added this entry. Let's look to see if the entries were added. And now we have 4 entries, and we also have the SQL POC service account. Let's go ahead and refresh this application, and we'll go ahead and delete this new task here. And let's go refresh so the task has been deleted. And that concludes our demo. If you have any questions,